An easy one next that we talked about a little bit before, but I thought we could just quickly go back to, is the people making, growing plants and buying in plants to supply to Marks and Spencer's and Tesco's and Sainsbury's. And the problem they've got a very big customer.
Yep.
So it's not really projects like we've been talking about just now. It's more of a sort of flow process.
Yeah.
So Sainsbury's, although it's sort of seasonal, so Sainsbury's want 10 million dahlias or something in sort of August.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then these might be grown in greenhouses for a few months beforehand, or they might buy them in from Holland or somewhere. And then they package them all up, and the packaging's quite an art.
Mm-hmm.
They put them in special sort of Mother's Day boxes or presentation things where there's 5 cactuses in one box or whatever.
For Mother's Day, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sit on that.
Yeah.
And then they ship it out to the customer. So they've got a growing area, a packing area that's really big. They've got some salespeople and mostly relationship selling rather than
just
finding new customers, because there aren't that many new customers, but they do a little bit of prospecting for new. And then they've got marketing. I'm wondering why they need marketing, actually. They have a little bit of marketing. They have a website and things. But because there are so few big customers, supermarkets out there, they're not really marketing. It's certainly not B2C marketing.
Yeah.
And then they have the usual admin people doing finance and HR and all IT and all the other stuff. And there's quite a lot of procurement as well, because they're buying in pots and potting compost and packaging material and pallets, and so we've got that.
So for each one of these things, it seems to me that for each one of these products, there's a window of opportunity in terms of the product.
Yes. Well, some of them are all year round, and some of them are more of a lump.
Can I ask what the problem is? Because in terms of...
Well, they're not making any money.
Again, we're back to the same thing.
And it's because the supermarkets are very powerful and they squash them down in price.
Yeah.
But no, is that right, though? Is it? Or, I mean, that's assuming...
Well, it's perceived power, isn't it?
Okay, but hold on. But what happens if...
I think they're very benevolent people, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course they're not. The fact is...
But nobody else can supply this.
Everybody blames the customer. I mean, that's for sure. But I
Yeah.
say, well, wait a minute. Well, that's the price you've got to sell at. Yeah. That's the quality. That's the delivery. That's the price. And that's the control standards you need to meet.
Growing plants is really difficult. And maintaining the quality is really difficult. And if you buy them in, it's hard to get them to come in really good. And then the supermarkets are very fussy about quality.
So coming in like that.
And they don't last for long if you keep them on the shelf either.
So that's the challenge, isn't it?
It's a very difficult game they've chosen.
And make a profit. And the problem is they're not making a profit,
Yeah.
or the profit that you would expect. So at the moment, it's a waste of time.
Yes.
So is it?
So why do it?
Good? Is quality good?
It is good, actually.
So they don't have this problem. They have. In terms of, you said it was really difficult.
Yeah.
But they seem to have mastered that.
Yeah, they grow some amazing, really beautiful. I don't know what they are, lilies or something.
Or something.
I've got one in the kitchen. I'll show you. But their quality is superb. And then they have to sell these plants for sort of £5.
So why are they doing it? Why are they doing it then? If you told me,
it's what they know, and they're better at it than most people.
So it's what I know, and if I lose money on it, that's fine. Is that acceptable?
It's a difficult industry, but I think perhaps they could be more profitable. Their admin load, I don't think, is as high as in some places, because they've got a lot of plants going through, massive great greenhouses growing and everything, and the admin office doesn't look that big to me. There's maybe only about 30 people in there, and they've probably got 100 in the
30%
production area, perhaps, yeah. But there's still a saving.
That's about as much as it takes to push you underwater, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're all paid more.
So I'm thinking,
that's an enormous quantity of labour in the admin department. If they had all
20.
that converted into labour, so all that labour converted into profit.
Yeah.
So 30, let's say it is 30 people play the game. How much does each one get
30
paid?
grand.
30 grand.
Well, the people in the factory,
that's £1 million quid nearly.
The people in the factory are really badly paid. They use a lot of foreign labour, and a lot of really young people work there, because the only way they can survive is to do it as cheaply as they can. So for various reasons, they're paying the admin people probably quite a lot more per person than they're paying the factory people, which I hate to see. I'm always on the side of the factory.
Yeah,
I am.
No, me too.
So I think you could fractalise it by plant type. You could have the person who does chrysanthemums or whatever.
Yeah. What are those things they have at Christmas? Those red things?
They do them as well, poinsettias.
Poinsettias.
Yeah. They all hate poinsettias because they know that within a few days of Christmas they're all going to be dead. The poinsettias, obviously, not the
Yeah,
and so
that's harsh, isn't it?
But they know that it's futile growing poinsettias, which it is, and but yeah, so they do them. They do all kinds of things that have red berries at Christmas. There's a new plant that's come along that's got these little red berries. It looks really nice.
Holly.
No, okay. And it's much better than poinsettias. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
But if you go to M&S, you'll see it.
Okay.
But I'm thinking you could do it by plant type, and that there's a logic to that because growing a particular plant does take a skill. At least it's a noun.
At least it's a
noun. Yes.
Yeah.
So you could then supply that plant to whichever customers.
So you could do it by plant type per store if you wanted to really fractal.
So I do poinsettias for M&S.
Or poinsettias for M&S Southern Region. Just play the game.
Yeah.
So to get the volume into something which is meaningful, so we can get a very, very small team in there, preferably.
So we could say to M&S, we're going to give you a different person for each store, and you'll have your point of contact, which they would probably quite like, rather than just one salesperson who's just really smooth.
And they can each store can then flex the volume to meet their requirements. I don't know. It's just an exploration. How can you actually, first of all, shift it from verbs to nouns, and once you're in nouns, get the volume down, something which allows flexibility.
Or you could do one store, but do all the plants for that store.
You could do that,
and then you could internally buy those plants from the growers who sell them. So you'd have an internal market of selling plants.
Or you could have an aggregator internally that buys the plants off the growers.
Yeah.
So and the aggregator then supplies.
And then Sainsbury's only have to deal with one person.
That's right. Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's ideal for Marks and Spencers. I think the most important thing is to give some sense of, is this possible for a start? So I say I'm going to supply all these poinsettias at Christmas, and that's going to be they're not going to say, "Oh, I just want generic plants for 9 months." So this is our poinsettia promotion.
You're worried about the seasonal aspect of this, aren't you? That I have nothing to do after Christmas when I've done my poinsettias.
That's right, and the poinsettias has to be considered as a separate, isolated, bookended project.
Yeah,
because that's what Marks and Spencer is going to order from them.
But these people in total are doing plants all year round.
I get
so
that.
there must be a mix of plants. But so I could do poinsettias and ivy and roses or something, and that will keep me busy all year.
Yeah, but first of all, I'm worried about, can we make money out of poinsettias? How much is the contract from Marks and Spencer's worth? How many people can we have divided over that project?
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to start off with, if we want to make a profit, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get the quality right. Is it possible? Start there. Do we offer poinsettias or don't we?
It could be that poinsettias are always loss making, but you have to do them as part of everything else to be in with Marks and Spencer's.
That's right. And what if they're all loss making?
Well, then it's definitely not worth doing.
Right. And what if somebody entering the market will just take the things that are really profitable, and leave you with loss-making ones?
Well, M&S might not go to them, and if they had a choice. But you could say to M&S, we've got to charge you more for the poinsettias and less for something else because that's how it is. And they might go, fine. Or they might go, no, we're not paying more for poinsettias. In which case we could say, well,
but there's a market price for poinsettias out there between Asda, Tesco's, M&S.
Yeah.
Whatever that market price is, it's plus or minus, let's say 5.
All being supplied at a loss, quite possibly.
Well, no, not I doubt it very much. That tends to be not how market works. There tends to be, there's a bunch of players that are making money and there's a bunch of players that are losing money.
So 20% tend to be making money, 80% tend to be catching up.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and the 20% set the price.
Yeah. So the lowest ones set the price point in the marketplace and everybody else is scrabbling to keep up with them. So, and of course, the volume goes tends to go to the
and it might
price.
not be worth it for us to be doing poinsettias.
It might exactly.
It might well be that all the stuff they import from Holland is loss making, and the stuff they grow their own is profitable, or the other way around. Mm-hmm. And of course, they may not even know that at the moment because it all goes into one big pot.
Yeah, and I suppose that's why I would have one person responsible for the poinsettias, and then be able to ring fence all the costs and everything around that, including maintenance, everything, and then be able to say, yes, it was worth doing that.
Yes.
And even if you made a loss, was there something else more profitable we could have put in its place?
Or
if there isn't,
is there something else we could have taken out?
Yeah.
Is there a cost that we didn't? For instance, did they need to be heated to 21 degrees or whatever it is? Could we have got away with something different?
I'm going to get you Exhibit A.
Oh, a poinsettia.
Yeah, well,
oh, that's not a poinsettia. That's a weed. It's a spider plant.
I bought this for £6.
£6.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the plant is
that Ficus elatum chlorophyllum?
It's a spider plant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But there's the value added is in the bat, of course, and so they've started making really nice containers for things. You may not like this bat. I actually really like this bat.
Do you?
Yeah. I just thought it was great. So that, but of course, somebody creative has thought, if we do the container and the plant, we can make a lot more money than just selling spider plants. And so, if they were fractalised down more, they'd perhaps be even better at being creative. And I don't know where it's been brought in from or how they got it made.
China,
of course. Yeah. So I'm just going to put that there now. But I think the product range could be expanded hugely, and it could be they don't make any money from just ordinary plants, but they make loads of money from things like that. So,
or contract it.
They need to be thinking divergently about how they can do more and more different ways to be profitable. But I think I don't know whether being fractalised would help that or not.
Well, the challenge is to take your worst product and make money out of it, because that really makes you focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's take the poinsettia. Let's say
because I think that's probably quite profitable.
So let's say forget everything else. Let's take this one. How do we make money out of poinsettia? So let's set up a little unit. Yeah. So we're going to try, even if we have to supply 10% of the poinsettias they need, if we can get this little unit to supply 10% of the requirements for poinsettias and make money, we know we can make money out of poinsettias.
Yeah.
Fantastic, because we just have to replicate that little unit that makes poinsettias. And that's the challenge. How do you make money out of your worst product?
So I think fundamentally here, there's not going to be one big answer. You're not going to go into their production area and say, I do training, time management, and if I just turn this down here, you'll make 10 times more money. There's not going to be...
That's what they think I can do.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, but we know otherwise.
Yeah. And what we know...
I'll just cut that bit.
Cut that out. Yeah,
what we know, there's 1,000 improvements you're going to have to do, including some fundamental rearrangements to transform it.
And you need to get the people in the business to do all of that.
And the point, and that's the point really, there's not one person's brain who can solve all these problems. What you have to do is to elicit all the brains of all the people that you have in there who are clearly able to do the jobs in such a way that they're thinking more than just growing the spider plant.
It might be pot sizes, it might be type of compost, it might be standardising, it might be how they pack them.
So there may be
anything.
A green waste business on the side of this that could make all the difference. Where people pay you to take their green waste away, and then you compost it, and that's the source of your manure. The point I'm trying to make is the essence of fractalising is not so much just in saving costs; it's to engage everybody in the problem. So, if you've got no problem with the quality of the product you manage to do, and there's this window of opportunity where obviously this plant came in really good condition and then you just neglected it. But what you don't want is for that neglect to occur during your supply process.
It was actually like that in the shop. I bought that from Marks and Spencer's and it was like that. But I wanted the bat so much I was prepared to pay £6 for the worst
plant.
For the worst ever spider plant.
But it looks a bit desiccated.
And I know that I can get it to recover. It needs watering, but I know I can get that. That's a detail for me. But it was interesting because I bet it was supplied in perfect condition to M&S.
Right.
And I think it had been on their badly lit shelf for several weeks before I bought it.
There's a lot of returns.
It could be.
Because often these supermarkets...
They send it back now going, look at the state of this plant that we've
had
for 3 weeks.
Could even be consignment stock.
Yep.
Might not even be the supermarkets. They don't buy them at all. They just put them on the shelves.
And all the fellas do at the supermarket is wheel the display in and out the shop every morning and every evening. So, in fact, they're responsible for whether it sells or not.
Yes, it could be they haven't been paid for it until they sell it.
I don't know.
And, these things... You're much better to engage the person who's growing this into the problem of saying, well, what do we do about the fact that they're dying in display and then they definitely don't sell and then we get them back? Specifically, you get them back. At which point, then it goes from one person's problem to everyone growing is thinking about this problem, and it only takes one of them to come up with a solution, and then everyone just copies it.
I was there recently, and they were spending a huge amount of time. Some plants, they bought a whole load, like 100,000 pots in, and they had white fly on about half of them.
Wow, yeah.
And they were taking absolutely ages to. They by hand they have to go every single one. I don't think it was poinsettias, but whatever it was, go through every single plant getting the white fly off, and they have to check even the half that haven't got it. They have to check everything, and of course you miss one white fly, and then by the time it gets to M&S, there's loads of them again, and they see it on one plant, they send the whole lot back.
Yeah.
So trying to get them off is just mad. And I said to them, you should just send those back to the supplier.
Yes.
And they were going, yeah, but we need them, and we need to ship them next week, and we haven't got time. And I'm
so you can see how difficult it is for them to work out their costs.
Yeah. And also how difficult to solve a problem like that. And whose job is it even? Is it purchasing? Is it production? Whose problem is it? And all of that, it just became so messy and complicated. Even and that's just one of hundreds of things they have to deal with.
Are they actually growing them? Or are they just middlemen?
Well, these ones had been delivered in like that.
Is this company
Holland or somewhere? So the first thing is you've got to send them back, I think, or refuse to pay.
Is this company a growing company, or is it just an intermediary between?
It's 50-50, and I think it doesn't know.
Right.
But nevertheless, though, that is a.
But I would test the profitability of both, because I bet one's more profitable than the other.
I bet you.
Well, and the problem is, you might find it is profitable to get them in from somewhere else. Except 1 in every 100, you have a big problem, and then you lose all the margin you've had.
Yeah.
By having every person in the place checking individual plants. So, there comes a question whether it's worth having somebody over in Holland to pre-inspect these things.
Yes.
So you say, we want another batch.
But rather than solving that, I think if you had a better structure, if you divided it by plant type, by noun, poinsettias and others, then it would be much easier to know what's profitable and what isn't. And then you'd know that these ones lose money quite often because of the whitefly, or these ones are not profitable because growing our own is just mad. And you'd know that. And I think at the moment it's very difficult for them to know that. Yeah. So at least you'd home in on your profitability. Definitely. If you divided it down.
But also when you divide it down, you would get these smaller teams to do all their admin. So then you would lose all these centralised management.
Yes, those 30 people.
Yes, in management, leadership, admin, that would all go.
Yeah.
Because that would be integrated into these smaller self-organising teams.
So one possibility is, of course, they have a lot of temporary staff who come and go, and it's very seasonal, and then they go down to 60 people or something, and then in their busy times they're up to 120 people.
Yeah, I don't think they do fluctuate like that, though, but I think they have a constant problem getting enough people. Whereas I think if they had fewer people who were better paid, they'd stay and be easier to recruit.
We certainly saw a big benefit. There's the sweets, the most of the reasons why businesses today are under stress is because the sweet spot of having a low-skilled people you don't pay very much money to has sort of disappeared. Yeah. Because the productivity is not high enough and the prices we're gaining in the marketplace are not high enough. And there's another sweet spot over here. There's a chasm in between where you pay people who aren't good enough too much. And there's another sweet spot over here, which is you pay people a lot of money who are very good at what they do. And you really don't have much of a choice nowadays in our economy but to balance on that spike.
Because that's where the money is. There's nothing else.
Well, they're down here on the, if you like, the busy fool end of things, and it's terribly difficult for them.
Yeah, but it's terribly difficult for most companies, and we've been there. It's not like they're terrible people because they've got themselves into trouble.
It's just really difficult.
It is difficult, and life is a constant series of puzzles. But
interestingly, they were saying that it's really hard to make a profit, and at the time, I think something like 50% of what they were making was being made for, I think it was Tesco's. And Tesco's were really pushing them down on price, as they do.
Yeah.
And I said to them, you're probably making a loss. And they said, yeah, we probably are on that. And I said, well, get rid of Tesco's. And they went, well, we can't. It's half our turnover. Yeah. And I said, well, if you did get rid of Tesco's, you could get rid of half your people, but you probably wouldn't need to because something else will come along. Anyway, what happened then was they lost the Tesco's contract. Mm-hmm. It might have been Sainsbury's, I can't remember. I'm saying Tesco's. Yeah. And they lost the Tesco's contract and immediately picked up several other jobs. I guess because the incentive was there and the capacity was there that they could offer to people, and for whatever reason.
Marketing and sales panicked.
Yeah. They had to do some work. And so...
No, somebody else gained the Tesco's job.
Yeah, good luck to them.
But hold on, that puts them under stress to supply. they then drop other people who then look for other suppliers.
Yeah, so
because there's only so many people growing. There's not, the supply and demand do balance out.
But so that could have been it.
Yeah.
So, but what they said to me was it was the best thing that ever happened to us, because they've got several smaller customers who are much easier to work with. And they're taking smaller amounts, but they're prepared to pay more per plant because it's smaller, and so they're actually managed to make a profit margin on these smaller quantities
because P is higher, price is higher.
Yeah, the price is higher, and also these smaller people, I think they understand the quality, whereas the big supermarkets just assume everything's going to be perfect. They're not prepared to even talk about it. But these people will pay because they really look at the plants and understand how good they are, and so. Anyway, they're actually doing much better, having accidentally got rid of their biggest customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I mean that's
it still comes down to that if we could take it back to our example of what we had to do in our business, that wasn't an option.
Yeah,
get rid of your biggest customer. No. How do you make how do you work the business with what your biggest customer is prepared to pay? So ask yourself that question. What do I have to do in this organisation to do things differently enough so I can make that job, in this case the Tesco's job, the most profitable one in our business? How do I do it? What magic do I have to do? What do I have to strip out?
That's a big question.
That's the question that, as an organisational manager or leader...
Yeah.
Surely that's what you're doing.
I'd start by supplying them only the most profitable plants and not doing the poinsettias, to use an example.
Well, clearly you don't need a marketing department for Tesco's, because you know for a fact that Tesco's are just buying on P.
Yeah.
So there's no point allocating them a whole lot of marketing resource when they don't want it. They just say, give us the cheapest stuff. Right, so now we can hone it down to let's say the Tesco's supply chain. This is the range of plants they want. This is the team that will do each of these plants.
Yeah.
Marketing, not required.
And then you can look at profitability because you can actually measure it because each team is separate.
Measure it. Yeah.
So you know what's profitable.
If you start